بأي ذنب قتلت وإذا الصحف نشرت وإذا السماء كشطت وإذا الجحيم سعرت وإذا الجنة أزلفت علمت نفس ما أحضرت فلا أقسم بالخنس الجوار الكنس والليل إذا عسعس والصبح إذا تنفس إنه لقول رسول كريم ذي قوة عند ذي العرش مكين مطاع ثم أمين وما صاحبكم بمجنون ولقد رآه بالأفق المبين وما هو على الغيب بضنين وما هو بقول شيطان رجيم فأين تذهبون إن هو إلا ذكر للعالمين لمن شاء منكم أن يستقيم وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله رب العالمين.
صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفارقين من عرب ومن عجم.
Allah has made Laylatul Qadr in this month, which is better than 1,000 months. As Allah says, the night of Al-Qadr is better than 1,000 months. Therein descend the angels and the Ruh Jibreel, by Allah's permission with all decrees. There is peace until the appearance of dawn. Hazrat Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala anhu reported that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, fasting is a shield. So when one of you is fasting, he should neither indulge in obscene language nor should he raise his voice in anger. If someone attacks him or insults him, let him say, I am fasting. Al-Muslim.
Welcome to B2B World News with the latest news and updates. I'm Sana Makbool and these are the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Imran Khan warns of India-like situation in Pakistan within 2 weeks if the current trend of coronavirus infections continues. Prime Minister announces Army will now assist civil administration in enforcing SOPs. Coronavirus claims 144 more lives, while 5,870 people test positive across the country during 24 hours. Prime Minister Imran Khan inaugurates Kosar University and launch development projects in famous tourist resort Murray, says tourism has the potential to uplift the national economy and create jobs in the country. Pakistan urges Afghan Taliban to participate in negotiations to bring permanent peace and stability in Afghanistan. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says people of Afghanistan should benefit from this golden opportunity. Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry says the agreement between the government and Band Tehreek-e-Labbaik has been fully implemented. Hospitals in India launched desperate appeals for oxygen as the nation's COVID crisis plummeted to horrifying new depths, with a record highest number of infections reported in a day. Zimbabwe beat Pakistan by 19 runs in the second T20 International in Harare and levelled the three-match series 1-1. BTV Sports telecasts the match live. Those are the headlines. For details and live streaming, log on to our website world.btv.com.pk. You can also log on to our Facebook page with the name BTV World and follow us on Twitter @WorldBTV. Goodbye for now.
سر سے لے کر پاؤں تک تنویر ہی تنویر ہے، زندگی سرکار کی قرآن کی تفسیر ہے، پوچھتی تو ہوگی دنیا مصطفیٰ کو دیکھ کر، سوچتی تو ہوگی دنیا مصطفیٰ کو دیکھ کر، وہ مصور کیسا ہوگا جس کی یہ تصویر ہے، مولا یا صلی وسلم دائما ابدا علی حبیبک خیر الخلق کلہم، مولا یا صلی وسلم دائما ابدا علی حبیبک خیر الخلق کلہم۔
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the ramifications of Shehbaz Sharif now that he's out on bail, and what direction would the PMLN take as far as their leadership now is concerned. Will it have any effect? We'll also be talking about the situation as far as the government post the Shahid Khaqan Abbasi debacle in the National Assembly is concerned. Will that impact politics at all? Because we've seen from time to time somebody or the other come out and do play a stunt that looks potentially very damaging for the National Assembly as a whole. We'll be talking about that also. We'll be talking, of course, about the rising wave of COVID-19 and how Pakistan also seems to be in the midst of it, what measures are being taken, what is expected in the next couple of weeks. Of course, the Prime Minister has announced that Army will help in enforcing the SOPs. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Amir Hussain, who's a political analyst. Thank you for joining us today. Waqas Naseem, leader PTI. Thank you for joining us today. Rana Ehsan Afzal, leader PMLN. Thank you for being with us. Amir Sahab, what do you think about the situation now? We've seen what happened in the National Assembly. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, of course, is also a former Prime Minister, not just a very prominent leader of the PMLN. And he enjoys a certain clout, he enjoys a position, a very, very important key position in the PMLN. Also, he's not known for, this kind of bursts or this kind of a temper, or, he's always known as somebody who's very suave, who's very calm, who's always the voice of reason within the PMLN also. So So what do you think is behind this kind of an outburst?
Well, I think this is first of all unfortunate because very damaging for the democracy and the parliamentary ethics in the country. The way he has reacted in the assembly, it was out of proportion because whatever situation is there, you are in front of the house, in front of the speaker of the National Assembly.
Right.
The leaders must demonstrate the utmost passion in the situation when you are discussing, you are representing the whole nation, I mean your own constituency, the people of Pakistan. I think this has been quite some time. For last 6-7 months we have seen a rapid increase in this sort of bashing within the political spheres, and in particular the mainstream political parties who must exercise more responsibility are now taking it very negatively. So the image of democracy is damaged from this. Image of the engagement, the people, democracy, and the leadership. The leadership must rise above party politics sometimes and trying to build a way for dialogue, for engagement. So I think this spirit is lacking both from the government side as well as opposition. So,
and when we talk about leadership, of course, he is one of the key leaders, like I earlier said, of the PML, and also not known for this kind of an outburst.
Absolutely, he has never been into that. I think this kind of, the PML is kind of feeling like the space is.
Do you think there's a cornered feeling there which is resulting in this kind of an outburst?
Yeah, I think that's one of.
Vikas Sahab, do you agree? Do you think that perhaps they're feeling cornered after, of course, the PDM? We've seen the way that has happened, the PMLN, the PPP, and their, their division, so to speak, the PDM sort of falling through. Do you think that's also behind that kind of reaction that's come out?
I think morality, ethics, principles, values, decency dictate that not only a former Prime Minister, anybody who is in the Legislative Assembly representing his constituents, his people, the Pakistani nation as a whole, should be a symbol of grace and dignity.
Right.
Decorum should never be lost, and decency is always the hallmark of leadership. Hooligans behave in a street-like manner.
Yes.
What I think, madam, you have touched upon a very right thing, that what's happened is that you remember the PTI Dharna. There were about 5,000-7,000 PTI workers in front of the Federal Cabinet, Parliament, and Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab and Ahsan Iqbal Saab and a few other, Musaddiq Malik Saab, they went in between those 7,000 to 8,000 people, started a press conference bashing Imran Khan. Mob does not have a mindset. Mob reacts in a manner which is unthinkable, and there were some ugly incidents. That is what happened, and I feel that was orchestrated. They knew that the mob would react, so just to gain sympathy, that we were just having exercising our right, democratic right of freedom of expression, we were mobbed by PTI workers. That was done, and I think yet again in this National Assembly session, you see the whole episode. The speaker was repeatedly saying, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab, please address the chair, please start your debate. But he said, and he, out of nothing, he said, and I will hit you with a shoe. Now that is not, even a metric pass person will not do that.
But there have been for a time now, a lot of allegations coming from the PMLN saying, regardless, I mean, I'm not debating how he should have answered or whether that should have happened, but regardless of that, there has been allegations from the PMLN saying that the speaker doesn't give them the floor, doesn't allow them to speak, and it is always one-sided, the run of the house, so to speak. Do you think that could be behind the way that things turned out?
Mahrukh, I'll be the devil's advocate. Let's say what they are saying is true. I will be the advocate of what Rana Saab is going to say next. So let's say what they were saying is true. Does that justify going and telling that I will hit you with a shoe?
No, no.
By any measure of decency, that is not how a former Prime Minister is going. Next, madam, just see that the speaker had the right. He had the coat of arms with him. He could have removed Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab from that place, but he gave him the right to speak. Even if somebody is doing wrong, there is a message. You can walk out. You can have a motion moved against the speaker. But this is not the way that you physically threaten a person. Madam, if you ask me a difficult question, I have the right to say, madam, I excuse myself from answering that. But I do not have the right to use foul language with my anchor.
Right. So there's no denying that. There is no question about the way that he could have answered that. But do you think that is true, though?
Madam, I think the Speaker has been a symbol of decency, dignity, grace, and he has given a lot of space to the opposition.
Okay.
If we compare Ayaz Sadiq Saab, our senior, who was the former Speaker Assembly from PMLN, do you remember, they just wanted 4 polling station results to be recounted, and that could not happen for 126 days. They were protesting and they did not allow that. So you have to understand, Madam, you will see that Asad Kaisar sir, today I had the pleasure of meeting the Deputy Speaker, Qasim Suri Saab, and there was universal dismay that it was not a matter between PMLN or PTI. The House represents 220 million Pakistani. It represents mahrukh, hameed.
Right.
They are your representatives. They are our future generations' collective asset. So for them to behave in a manner, may it be from either side of the aisle, that is unthinkable. I think this should be closed, and I think Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab needs to have a bit of introspection, and he needs to look into how he behaved, and I'm sure he'll come to the justice, to the right feeling and decision that he should apologize to the chair.
Let's hear Rana Saab. Ji, Rana Saab, what is your opinion? I mean, do you think that, of course, as far as justification is concerned, we're not talking about that. Do you think there can be any, I mean, I don't think there's doubtfully anything that can justify his reaction, but why did it happen? What's your opinion on this? I'm sorry, I can't.
Alam Saab, the ex-chairman Pemra, and it's quite, it's really bad what is happening to journalists in Pakistan, and the fact that Press Freedom Index has, it has worsened from 139 to 145, and I demand from the government to set up a judicial commission and set up an inquiry about how journalists are being treated in Pakistan. According to Reporters Without Borders, 10 journalists have died in this current year. So it is this is quite a serious matter, and I see that the government is not taking it seriously. Now, coming to your question, before we are given a lecture on morality and ethics, I should remind you that rather than condemning what happened outside that parliament when Khaqan Abbasi, Maryam Aurangzeb and Musaddiq Malik Saab was attacked, he is defending that and saying that they were holding a press conference before the mobs came over there. No, they were holding after the mobs came over there. The press conference was being held over there before that, and that is a spot where many press conferences are held, and he has threatened to throw a shoe at the speaker. Obviously, I cannot defend those words, but a lot has been said in the same parliament. Abuses of other parties have been abused. Just this same day, the Minister for Religion
is the PMLN also following suit? That's my question.
No, there are 2-3 matters which need to be, on the same day. The Minister for Religious Affairs.
The question is the answer to whatever happened in the National Assembly, and this is another question that I'm posing to you. I'm not interjecting. Cannot be, or can it be, in your opinion, that much worse has happened?
Yes, much worse has happened.
But can it be an answer?
No, it's not an answer, but I'm telling you, to improve matters, just let me finish, on the same day, the Minister for Religious Affairs, he challenged, our faith. He was confronting PMLN on the Musa Risalat, that maybe, we have a lesser stance or lesser, strength on the Musa Risalat. So these sort of comments, and a lot more has been said. Punches have been thrown, chairs have been thrown. No, this should not be happening. But when you have a partial speaker, when you have a speaker who cannot run the matters of the parliament, who cannot hold a normal parliamentary session because he does not act in a neutral manner, things can lead to this, and they should not. And I feel, firstly, the speaker should apologize on the fact that he cannot run the parliament smoothly. He does not give opposition the due time they need, and their right is to get that time, and he cannot do that.
Shahid Saab apologize also?
Shahid Saab has said that at such an important matter, he was not giving after the resolution. He wanted to just quickly finish of the session, and he was not giving time to the opposition. And it was in that, all that led to that outburst, and it would have been better that that outburst wasn't there. But I think it is, the matter is how things are moving forward. It's really sad, and PTI and Imran Khan is responsible for that.
But Ramit, a man like Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, who is, not an ordinary politician, in the sense that he is Ivy educated, he is a very, very, suave politician, very calm, very cool, not known for bursts of temper, always has an informed opinion. And I'm saying this, without any bias, if you look at across the board politicians. For him to have this kind of outburst, don't you think it's worth thinking about? I mean, what is it about politics, where we are at this time, that kind of, manifests itself in these kind of outbursts? Because, of course, I mean, other than anything else, this is an issue of decorum, this is an issue of the sanctity of the parliament, this is an issue of the image of politicians. All of that itself is very true, regardless of whichever political party it is, regardless of, where in the house you sit.
Of course, I think your question also has an answer. That such a person who has a record of staying calm and has never done that, he was forced into a situation where he had an outburst. And that is exactly where we should contemplate why it happened. And, that you cannot hold a press conference in this country and your life can be threatened. That mob can attack the leaders of Pakistan.
It was more a case of the PMLN trying to get into, a whole lot of PTI workers, and that is what resulted in the scuffle that followed.
Yes, that is the sad part, that even after that incident, after being attacked, after their lives were threatened, we are being questioned. Rather than condemning those workers, still the blame is on us from the government side. Exactly. I mean, the whole country saw that that press conference was taking before. And many press conferences take place in that area. It's not uncommon.
Then of course the other side can can make the same argument and say that instead of apologizing, the PMLN is turning around and saying, well, it's the speaker's fault. So I think it's a case of everybody calling the other person wrong rather than admitting to any kind of responsibility. Amir Saab.
Well, I think this is really a difficult situation, tough time for Pakistan, because we understand that whatever happens in the parliament has ramifications, has repercussions for our national politics. I don't see anything coming out from the major political parties, whether it's the PTI.
Do you think it's a case of pandering to the leadership? But a man like him probably doesn't need to do that. I mean, for somebody who has perhaps a smaller career or a less, can perhaps we can say that they were trying to maybe do it for their leadership or give them, some sort of get some importance from there. But he probably isn't somebody who would need to do that.
No, I think he wouldn't do for that. But I think there is something that is going on, and the thing is that overall there is a perception that PMLN is squeezed in a way. It feels that it has been cornered, as you said rightly. But I think there's another way to doing, understanding the fact that sometimes when politics become kind of, belligerent, as we have seen in the country, the street protests and everything, so people try to trade upon that as well, to build their, rigor that we are here, we want to oppose, we have this. The macho man character is coming very, very rapidly into our politics, which is not good actually. And I think the responsibility also lies with the ruling government, that they should have started to initiate an engagement policy, which they have failed to do.
Do you think it would be possible, perhaps easier, to have that kind of engagement with Shehbaz Sharif Sahab now that he's out? Maybe it was less possible with Maryam Nawaz, because that's the impression that has gone out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shehbaz Sharif is much more milder than, of course, Maryam and all that. And this is a perception that he has come out because of the.
Why do you think that perception exists? Do you think it's because she's gone out and made these fiery speeches, but then she's also amassed huge crowds. She has, come out as a.
Absolutely.
There is no denying that. I mean,
she has charisma. She is a great leader. Is no doubt in that. But I think again, in politics, this in parliamentary politics, in electoral politics, it all matters. It boils down to pragmatism. So the pragmatism part is being played through Shehbaz Sharif. The political idealism and ideological part is being played through Maryam Nawaz. So I think this is kind of striking balance between two. And of course, when you run the affairs of the state, the government also needs some sort of engagement, some people who can, come forward and voice the concerns that we are ready to negotiate, we are ready to come together for larger national issues. I think that kind of spirit is also coming from PMLN. And the coming out of Shehbaz Sharif, because he was co-accused with Hamza Shehbaz, so I think he had to come out one day, and he's come out. And now the problem is with the ruling government. They want to now this is their turn now to come forward and show some relaxation, because they have very little time left to concentrate on national politics and build the economy, focus on development. We are in a really big crisis right now.
Right, Waqar Saab.
Mahrukh, I always appreciate Rana Saab for speaking very, very pragmatically. He has always put forward his ideas very pragmatically. He is my brother. Now we need to understand that day democracy lost, the decorum of the house was disturbed. Now let us say what the narrative my brother Rana Ehsan has built, let us say that is true. The speaker was not allowing Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Saab, our former Prime Minister, to table our resolution. That is what he is saying. Let's say what that is true. So Mian Nawaz Sharif Saab was Prime Minister of the country for 3 times. So where in the legislation it is written that if the speaker does not allow you to table a resolution, a shoe should be thrown at him? Please don't do that.
Okay.
We are sensible people. We are representing, madam, I'll just take a second to build my narrative. We are sensible people, educated people, refined people. We want to bring the new nation at this 21st century to be representing the best of the Pakistani nation in the National Assembly. This is not right. This cannot be defended. I'm saying the speaker could have handled that much better. Let's say that. But to say that throwing a shoe at the chair, you do not respect the occupant, you respect the office. The office is important. The chair will tomorrow might go to PMLN again.
Right.
And we set a precedent, then we will say, see, your Prime Minister said that, ex-Prime Minister, now we are going to do that. This is not right.
But do you think there can be now, perhaps you're in a better position now to have a working relationship with the PMLN, with Shehbaz Sharif Saab out of jail?
Madam, what was the dichotomy? Why was Mian Shehbaz Sharif Saab, our former Chief Minister from Punjab, who's a very politically aggressive leader inside Punjab, very active leader, why was he inside custody? And why was he not being granted bail? That was because of the reason that 5 members of his family, his sons, his daughters, respectively, were proclaimed as scoundrels from law. They were out on bail and they are not coming to the courts. They are not presenting themselves. Their names would be Salman Shehbaz, Nusrat Shehbaz, Rabia Imran, Harun Yusuf, Sayyid Tahir Naqvi and Ali Hamid. These 5 people are not producing themselves before, and that is why their bail was being denied. Now, what was the case against Shehbaz Sharif Saab? Let's just have 1 minute. In 1990, Shehbaz Sharif Saab, after Nawaz Sharif Saab became the Prime Minister, had declared assets of 2.1 million. 21 lakh was the total financial worth of Mian Shehbaz Sharif Saab. If your common sense dictates that that is true, then obviously he was held wrong. In 1998...
No, but I'm not disputing whether he was held wrong or right. And of course, bail doesn't mean that he's been exonerated of the charges at all. Of course, the investigation continues, and we will know after that investigation concludes what the findings are. But I'm saying now, as he is the leader of the PMLN, there's no dispute on that. He's out of jail now. There's no dispute on that. There has been some impression that Maryam Nawaz herself was perhaps more rigid in terms of her relationship with the PTI, with the government. Do you think, and Shehbaz Sharif Saab is known for having a rather more flexible stance than her, do you think there's a probable chance that the government can now have some sort of a working relationship with the PMLN?
Madam, we want to have an honorable, dignified, respectful relationship with all opposition parties who are not proclaimed as scoundrels. May they be Shehbaz Sharif Saab or Mian Nawaz Sharif Saab. They are both respectable.
Whatever happens as far as Shehbaz Sharif Saab is concerned, the charges against him have to be proved yet.
Yes, true.
And there are a lot of leaders in this country who are facing inquiries which have not been concluded, he being one of them. Until that happens, I mean, like I said earlier, there is no doubt that he is the leader of a main opposition political party. So wouldn't it be perhaps credible, perhaps better for the opposition, the government at this time to extend their hand?
Madam, we tried that. We tried working with Shehbaz Sharif Saab, and you saw what happened, madam, was that Misake Maishat, Shehbaz Sharif Saab said when the money bill was presented in the National Assembly that we would work together with Shehbaz Sharif and we'll try to get that out. And Mariam Nawaz said we cannot have any Misake because the family is divided. Now there is a problem.
But if there were not such division, perhaps it would be easier for the government. That's
we would want to work, madam, as a PTI worker, not as a spokesman of the federal government. I am from Kashmir, but I would say that it is always healthy for the country and for the democracy if the opposition, the treasury benches and the opposition benches work together towards legislation and bringing harmony in the National Assembly and uniting the nation. That will always be the desirable outcome.
Right. Ji Rana Saab. Do you think
there's a very severe... No, there's a very severe problem. You saw the Prime Minister's address recently regarding the TLP issue, and he could not restrain himself from attacking the opposition regarding that issue, where the opposition had nothing to do with what was happening with TLP. And for, one of the rarest instances in this situation, the opposition did not use the religious card like PTI did when there was a Faizabad Dharna, and they tried to, challenge the faith of PMLN members. So, even then, this Prime Minister has a severe case of blaming the opposition on all issues. And with that happening, I think, there can be no coordination. For example, when Corona started, the Prime Minister in that parliamentary meeting left after addressing all party heads and did not even, care to listen to what the opposition members said. For example, even in this assembly session, when they brought the, resolution for TLP, the Prime Minister was missing. So over here, it is not the job of the opposition to reach towards the government. It is the government's job, and the problem here is that you have a narrative of PTI in which, they are blaming the opposition for all the ills of the country. And that's because even up till today, almost 3 years are ending for PTI, and they have been unable to deliver on any front. So their only narrative is to blame the opposition, to mudsling the opposition, to abuse the opposition, and that is why their accountability drive has been so aggressive.
That kind of abusing is not only coming from one direction at this point. I don't think there can be any
it is initiated.
But do you think there is a possibility?
Mahrukh, when the Minister of Religious Affairs, even just a few days back, in the Assembly, is challenging the faith of PMLN, I mean, what could be worse than this? They could not avoid punching the opposition at such a sensitive issue. They cannot deliver a single speech where they cannot abuse the opposition. So this is the problem of the government. And that is why there is no coordination. Even with the TLP matter, you saw that, they went and made agreements with this organization, and they did not bring in any consensus among the political parties, or they did not bring this agreement to the parliament even up till date. So this government is unable, incompetent to bring about consensus among political parties, and that is only because, once again, it is a problem with this Prime Minister, and that is his only narrative is to, abuse the opposition and, somehow blame everything on them, because they do not have anything on the delivery front. They do not have anything to show on the economic front, on the development front. And this narrative has failed. Even, now Shehbaz Sharif is out on bail. Ahad Seema is out on bail. All their accountability cases are a big flop. And after 2 years, if in case they're able to complete their tenure, their only narrative, people are not going to believe them, because nothing has been proved against the opposition up till now. Only all their narratives have been defeated.
Ji, what do you say to that? As far as performance is concerned,
I'll just take a minute, and Rana Saab is yet again a very devout Muslim, so I'm sure that he's fasting and he's stressed because of that. On the political situation and on the economic situation, there is nothing much to show. Let me just tell you, foreign direct investment, FDI, is increasing. Current account deficit is decreasing. Foreign remittances are increasing. Trade deficit is decreasing. Foreign exchange reserves are increasing. CPAC is going very, very smoothly. Balance of payments is very, very, very comfortable. Prices of all essential commodities are very balanced, stable and under control.
They're not high.
They are not high. Load shedding is a thing of the past. Now tell me, where is the problem over here? This is very, very easy to give a blanket statement that you have done this wrong, that you have done that wrong. I have given you the facts and figures, and tell me that yes, FDI is going down, foreign direct investment. I am saying it is at all-time high. That is not true. Remittances are not coming in. Tell me foreign exchange reserves are not stable. Tell me that the international rating for Pakistan is not going good. We are managing everything as best as they could be. We are trying our level best to
But of course, for COVID, you feel that the army has to be called in to enforce special.
Madam, because there is Imran Khan did not set up the civilian structure of this country. As I said in my last program over here, at another challenge, unemployment, illiteracy, violation of merit, economic instability, social injustice, political uncertainty, terrorism, sectarianism, racism, nepotism. These are the hallmarks of our society since 1947.
But on the one hand, everything is going great, but on the other hand, there are all these things.
Administratively, institutional building has not been happening in Pakistan for the past 7 decades, and at times of need in every country. See, for example, when there was Hurricane Irene in America.
Right, but shouldn't ideally, of course, shouldn't the civilian government be able to enforce SOPs and perhaps that the right course of action to have been taken?
Madam,
we have a lot of civilian administration. We have a lot of confidence in it also. Why not let them do it?
Madam, as best as the civilian administration has been able to do, it is doing. We have tried to do that, but in aid of civilian administration, the armed forces, according to constitution, which was ratified by the parliament, they can call them to it. This is not ideal. I yet again say that. I agree with you, but this is now being done because now we are between a fire pan and fire.
Before I go to Amir Saab, Waqas Saab, on the one hand, we have this situation. I'm asking this as a citizen of Pakistan rather than a journalist. On the one hand, we have this situation in the country which is very dire. We have hospitals filling out. We have at this time a notice with pins in Islamabad saying that they cannot admit any more patients, COVID patients, because they don't have oxygen, they don't have beds, they don't have ventilators, all of that. And on the other hand, and of course now we've seen with this new wave, this mutation of the virus, children being affected. Why at this time does the government feel that they need to go ahead with exams at this time and they need to move forward, and that cannot take a backseat? And we have, of course, we want SOPs to be enforced by the army, yet we cannot go for perhaps a week or two of another very strict lockdown. Of course, we don't want a situation like India. That unfortunately
you are absolutely right. I will be the first person to agree as a citizen of Pakistan. Like yourself, as a citizen of Pakistan, as a patriot, I will say that education policy needs to be reviewed. And I'm sure Shafqat Mahmood Saab is a very active minister of the federal cabinet, and he'll look into it. And I'll make it a point that we send what is our requirement as the PTI office bearer. We send the message across to the federal cabinet. And that's, madam, about the hospitals. Healthcare has been the primary focus of Imran Khan Saab. And what he has done is that in my Kashmir, for example, 1 million rupees free of cost healthcare is being awarded to every deserving Pakistani through Insaf Health Card. So that universal health card concept in developed countries is also not that pronounced. So for Imran Khan to have that process in place in Pakistan within 2 years, that is a big achievement. Let me assure you, by the time we leave government in 2023, let me assure you, madam, this will happen, that you will have a perfect healthcare system, much better than how we received it. It will have shortcomings, but that will be much better.
But of course, that has nothing to do with the COVID situation. That has, of course, shaken everyone, best healthcare systems all over the world. So I'm not denying that. But at this time, perhaps don't you think a stricter lockdown would perhaps be a better solution?
It would be much better solution, and especially as we all have kids, and we need to realize that inside schools, kids are never following SOPs.
Right.
It's
almost impossible to get them to follow it.
So I think the federal government and especially the federal Minister for Education needs to rethink. Exams should be delayed, and I'm sure you will see a positive outcome from the federal ministry in the recent future, inshallah.
Right, Ji. Do you agree, Amir Sahib, as far as the situation is concerned? Of course, the army has now, the government wants the assistance of the army. Of course, it's something perhaps like Waqar Sahib is saying that should have been avoided ideally, but the situation is not ideal in any way.
Well, I think, the situation is not ideal, but, we have a administrative setup in place, the district administration, the union council level institutional setup. I haven't seen any person going out in the market and doing their monitoring properly. So first thing is that you have to improve the governance, ensure that.
And how will they improve if every time we feel we need to, things aren't quite there, we need to call the army? Isn't it important to empower our own civilian structure?
That's what I'm saying, because we have civilian structure given, and they have the TORs. They are on public money. They take the salaries. They are there to monitor, and they have enforcement authority. They have police and everything. So this is where we have to understand that the civilian government the first recourse of civilian government is to make those institutions functional. And then if it doesn't work, then the last recourse would be army. I mean, this is, we are draining on our resources. We are already in the crisis. The economy is not growing properly. So I think in this situation, we have to.
Although Waqar Sahib would have us believe things are all hunky dory.
We have to see that these benefits that Waqar Sahib is saying, are they translating into the public welfare? That is the major issue that we have to understand. The unemployment, the inflation. The rising disenchantment in the public and the protest and all that. And we have to understand that this is extraordinary. We cannot put all the blame on PTI. We are living in a very extraordinary situation right now. And that's where we have to be very prudent when utilizing our resources. In particular, the institutions which are responsible to deliver, to enforce the compliance of these SOPs, they are there. We have to push them. We have to ensure that they play their role, and then bring in the army if it doesn't work. But I think that is where we have to be very.
Ji Rana Sahib, I hope you've been following.
I'd like to answer a couple of yes, I have. In a couple of comments. PMLN is squeezed in the current scenario. No, it's not. We won all the by-elections, even in Karachi. The polls are saying that Mr. Ismail is leading, and none of our leaders is in jail. Their accountability has fallen on its face. So I don't think that we're feeling squeezed. So on the economic side, I'd like to comment that, the Asian
I think you meant with regard to the PDM, the way that has manifested, the way the situation has panned out as far as the PDM is concerned, your alliance with the PPP, that may be a reason. I think that's what Waqar Sahib was trying to say.
On that point, obviously if one party decides to take some benefits from the government alliance parties, obviously, there's going to be a conflict, and if, we felt that with the resignations, the system would fall, and, there was a party which thought otherwise. The PDM could not have gone forward with that party. And, even though we could have taken the Punjab government, even today, it's very easy to take over the Punjab government, but the priority for PMLN is not to increase its power share in the current system.
But Rana Sahib, isn't it true? I mean, the way there is no the long march, the way it's fallen through, the way that the resignations issue has fallen through, at this time, to a normal person, it seems like the opposition has fizzled out.
Not at all, because the PDM does believe in, democratic way of opposition, and none of the PDM's move have been undemocratic. Even giving resignations with the rest of the parties was a democratic move, and that was, one of the major reasons why there's a little setback. But the struggle is going to continue because this hybrid regime is not producing any benefits. On the economic front, I would. Even minus the PPP, obviously the resignations are only going to be given if they are able to make the system fall. If that does not happen, obviously we're not going to benefit PTI by resigning, and where they can, just go for the by-election. So on the economic front, I would like to, talk about the current Asian Development Bank report, and it says that this current fiscal year is going to get a GDP growth of 1.3%, and our population growth is 2.5%. So that means there's going to be negative job creation. On the inflation front, it's still above 9%. They're predicting that this year it's going to be above 9%, and next year it's going to be above 7%. So with those inflation numbers, and a decreasing per capita income, your poverty line, which was at 24% in Pakistan in 2018, economists are predicting that it's crossed 40%. So you've increased the poverty line in Pakistan, you've squeezed the middle class, and that 1% of the people are making and minting money. So rich have gotten richer and the poor have gotten poorer in this regime. So even for next year, the Asian Development Bank is predicting a 2% GDP growth rate. So I don't, buy this economic. And when you talk about debt, it was at 72% of GDP. And today it's going to touch, 94%. And the tax collection, which is, the main indicator of how a government is performing, has not increased even 10% in the last 3 years from 2018. So your fiscal deficits
I
are
always
record.
have members of the opposition and the government, and the opposition picking out the statistics they find favorable to their side, whereas the opposition picking out.
But I'm talking about.
And I wish that out of this myriad of statistics, one could come to one universal fact of where we are as far as our economic situation is concerned.
One universal economic indicator is your GDP growth, and it's at a abysmal low. One major, indicator is your fiscal performance, and it is your fiscal deficits are running a record in the last decade. So I mean, they talk about selected indicators. Now coming to your point on Corona. So, what could the government have done today? They could have managed a massive number of vaccines. They have not done that. They have not spent a single penny on procuring vaccines. So in this current scenario where you should have been vaccinating at least 1 million people a day, you're not doing anything. And your vaccine process is so slow. So on the other side, you should have implemented the SOPs. And for that, you're calling in the army, which means the government has failed to do so with its current machinery. So it is an abysmal failure. You have almost, you've reached 100% occupancy on ventilators, and, it's hard to find any beds today. So I think, and they were claiming victory on how good their policy has been in controlling Corona, and it has been exposed badly. It was only the weather which contained it. So on all fronts, I see utter failure of this government, and there is only one thing, which is there's a very strong media propaganda, but sadly people are not buying it anymore because reality is much stronger than any propaganda.
Right, I will come back to you. Waqar Sahab, it's very important as far as the issue of vaccination is concerned. Certainly, as far as vaccination, there has been a lot of criticism that that process itself should have been much faster, should have been more efficient. More and more people should have been vaccinated at this point. There has, of course, been a shortage, and now the way things are, we haven't acted fast enough at all.
Mahrukh, I was trying my level best that we should have a polite discussion over here, but my brother has said renewedly 2 or 3 things, so I'll just respond. One thing, he has said that the rich are becoming richer. Yes, sir, there was a person who in 1990, when he became the chief minister, he had 21 lakh in his account. In 2005, he had 732 crores. So I do not find the justification of doing that. There was a gentleman whose son, who is now the leader of the opposition in Punjab Assembly, got 23 telegraphic transfers from abroad on the passports of people who have never left Pakistan. Please don't tell me about siphoning off money to exotic locations in Cayman Islands and then accuse that Pakistan, perhaps Imran Khan is protecting the rich. Now coming to inflation, madam, inflation was 16% when we came to government. We brought it down to 9%, according to my learned colleague who is sitting over here. Lastly, about TLP. TLP during the government of PMLN was able to amass and bring the twin cities to a standstill.
Do you think the government is threatened at all by what's happening as far as Jahangir Khan Tareen is concerned?
Madam, if the government is threatened by any measure of imagination, we won Punjab We won KPK, we won Balochistan, we won GB, we won the Senate, we won the Chairman's Senate.
But you have lost, to be fair, the recent by-election.
Just one Daska, madam, that was one election.
But you think there can be a forward block? Of course. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think PTI can dispute the leadership of and the effect of that leadership of Jahangir Khan Tareen and how he was a founding member. All of that.
I wouldn't want
his
to
own
touch
clout within southern Punjab also.
Madam, I am neither the spokesman for Jahangir Khan Tareen, but because he is a family friend, let me say that he is our former secretary general. He has worked very hard for the party, but that party was made by Imran Khan. The buck stops at him. Imran Khan.
But he helped him make the party.
Very true. He was doing politics before Imran Khan, and he could not gain prominence. He gained prominence when he joined Imran Khan. We need to understand Imran Khan commands the loyalty, respect, confidence, and obedience, the four attributes of leadership of the party cadre, of the federal cabinet, of the parliamentary party, of the provincial assemblies, and he enjoys the confidence of 220 million Pakistanis. There has never been any gathering inside Pakistan in excess of 5,000 people against Imran Khan.
But within southern Punjab, do you think that it's possible? I mean, of course, there is a lot of sympathy for what's happening with Jahangir Khan Tareen within your political party. There's a lot of people who have also gone with him to court. There's a lot of, like again, empathy for him and his plight. Do you think that can lead to perhaps something more, perhaps a forward block forming within the PTI?
Madam, please tell me we are in a catch-22 situation. We let Jahangir Khan Tareen go out on bail, and they say that you give him a way out, a safe passage. We hold him accountable, and they say you are isolating the individual. Tell me, what are we supposed to do? We are caught between but the best thing over here, the silver lining over here, is that there was a iftar party arranged at Jahangir Khan Tareen Saab's residence, and after having communication from the Prime Minister office, PMO office, that was cancelled, and within the next 2 to 3 days, this is just storm in a teacup. Let me assure you, Mahrukh, that you will see within the next 7 days, Jahangir Khan Tareen sitting with Imran Khan, and all the MPAs and honorable MNAs who were with him at the court will be issuing a press statement validating that Imran Khan is their legal liable leader with whom they will continue to struggle
and
to make a difference.
And the investigation, what will happen to the investigation? It will finish?
Madam, I think law will take its course.
Okay.
That I'm assured.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Amir Saab, thank you for joining us. Waqas Naseem Saab, thank you for being with us. Rana Ihsan Afzal, thank you for joining us today. As far as the issue of other issues like economic stability, the government's performance, governance is concerned, certainly we can sit and dispute figures, but it is time for the government to realize also that they have just a little time for all of those things with the COVID-19 wave, third wave, again increasing the cow curve, not flattening. All of those challenges, of course, are right there for the government. The opposition also perhaps needs to think again that in this kind of a political climate and social climate, they need to perhaps have some relationship with the government, some working relationship. Perhaps Shehbaz Sharif's coming out will initiate some dialogue or some relationship with the government. We'll have to see. Let's hope that the next couple of weeks will see the curve of COVID-19 flattening. Please follow all the SOPs. Please take as much care as possible. Stay home as much as possible. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.
Magla Hills, the heaven of Islamabad, the abode of God, a place where you can explore your soul and meet power of natural elegance of mountains. Spread over an area of 12,605 hectares, the Magla Range, the foothills of Himalayas, are youngest hills with an age of 5,000 years old. Magla Hills are home to around 600 plant species, 250 bird varieties, 38 mammals, and 13 species of reptiles. Magla Range is characterized by many valleys, scenic spots, and beautiful water streams, especially in the monsoon months. Famous for their tranquil environment and lush green natural splendor, Maghla Hills are a particular source of pride, harmony and spiritual delight. For the residents of Islamabad, many of whom make it a weekly ritual to scale the various trails to Damanikovo and Pir Suhava. Maghla Hills stand up its visitors with lasting trail of memories to relish in solitude and quite an escape from the relentless rhythm of life.
The Faisal Mosque is the largest mosque in Pakistan. Located in the national capital city of Islamabad. Completed in 1986, it was designed by Turkish architect Vedat Daloke.